Hello, gorgeous. Day 4 of Tarot Breakdowns. You can see up on your screen, I have the Four of Pentacles pulled up. If you are just tuning in and this is the first video you've seen of mine, I invite you to take what resonates with you, what works for you, and leave what doesn't. Tarot is a very personal thing. Let's jump right in. The element of the Four of Pentacles is Earth. The signs that we're going to be looking at is the Sun in Capricorn. The time frame is going to be January 10th through January 19th. The time of day is going to be Sundays, sunrise, and sunset. In the days and hours of the sun, we're going to be looking at wealth and gain and fortune. We're going to be kind of breaking down hostile feelings and trying to make new friends. So some of the key words for the Four of Pentacles is going to be paranoia, selfishness, prudence, control, stubborn, being miserly, security, imposing one's will, hoarding, closed-minded, and trauma. I know it sounds heavy, but this card can be a eye-opener when we look at the cards kind of surrounding it. And this card really does have, it has a standalone energy that can carry its own weight. But when it's placed amongst other cards, then we get a bigger, more whole picture of what the situation is. So when we're talking about body parts regarding the Four of Pentacles, we're going to be talking about whatever in you is being guarded the most. But when it comes to health, and if you've watched my other videos, I'm big on using the cards to kind of like give us insight into our health and how the total picture kind of fits together. So when it comes to health, we're going to be looking at arthritis, bones, joints, possible weight gain, depression, self-medicating, digestive issues, the teeth. And the elemental suggestion here is that it's overactive earth, right? And so we need to take a look at self-care routines. In love, this isn't exactly the nicest card to pull when it comes to love or relationships, because this can kind of point to somebody being sort of controlling and possessive and a little jealous and maybe even financial control. And I think that when we pull the Four of Pentacles in a love reading, we really got to kind of take a look at the situation, especially in the finance area, about like dependency and control. And I mean, it could, if it's not a financially based thing in the relationship, then it could just be possessiveness, not allowing people to make friends or go places, being controlling. So I would definitely look to the other cards for more context on that. So moving on to career and finance, this card can really kind of like point to somebody being a shark. And I don't know if you're familiar with that shark mentality where it's like hardcore ambition, win out above all others. You're going to kind of dominate your field. And then when I think about the energy of the Four of Pentacles, the first thing that comes to mind is like a dragon, how like a dragon will pile up treasures and sit on top of it, and that's kind of what they do. They like to accumulate things and hoarding, and this kind of leads us into the next thing, is that hoarding can be one of those aspects of this card that is very, it can be detrimental as a whole, but we also have to look at why this hoarding is taking place, why this fear of instability is taking place. And I don't want to get too far off track yet, but with the shark mentality, if this card represents an authority figure, right, like a boss, if you're pulling a reading on work or whatever, this boss can be teetering on the edge of fear, right? So the job insecurity mindset, although the position is stable and financially beneficial, they could be worried that they're going to lose their job, and so they get very domineering almost in the workplace. So we need to take a look at paranoia in the workplace, right? And how people control other people or control situations to protect themselves, right? So this is a very, I don't want to call it a fear-based card, but I feel like a lot of the behavioral aspects of this card can be fear-based, So if this card represents the person that you're reading for, I would definitely probe deeper into wealth insecurity mindsets. Like, where are they holding on to things that they do not need to be holding on to? Where are they acting kind of miserly and controlling in aspects of their life? And definitely look at the other cards for more context here. Some of the suggestions that I have for the Four of Pentacles is going to be consider fear and insecurity when accumulating wealth, right? If you listen to the other videos, then you know that we touched a couple of times already on the mindset and trauma behind wealth management, the accumulation of wealth, how financial security can come with some trauma based consideration. So if you were raised in a financially insecure home and you grew up to make your own money and stuff, and now you've developed these kind of negative behavioral patterns in order to protect your wealth, I would really look a little bit deeper into the past on that one. So one of the other things that I kind of want to point at is, if you evaluate areas in your life that can be decluttered and released, what are you holding on to that's causing you more stress? And when you're trying to protect what you have, it can also cause you to sabotage that very thing. And there's a good analogy I have here, and I don't know if I'm using that word correctly, but I think it's an analogy where if you take a handful of sand and you squeeze the hell out of it to try to protect it, it's just going to slip through your fingers, right? And you'll be left with nothing because you essentially force it all out. And so when you're trying to protect what you have, and you're doing it to a point where it could become detrimental to you, I really want to take a look at releasing, right? Releasing what doesn't serve, not holding on to things so much. It's like a pit bull with, their favorite toy. You can argue and fight and tug on that thing with them, and they're just gonna, dig their teeth in deeper and try to hold on to it. But the reality is when the Four of Pentacles shows up, this can be somebody who is like trying very hard to like maintain what they have and really almost to the point where they're hurting themselves. Does this make sense? Okay. So definitely probe deeper into the mindset and the belief patterns when it comes to wealth management and security. Whew, okay, so moving on to the body, right? Because I like to spend some time talking about the health in the body and holistic creatures, because nothing exists in a vacuum. I say this all the time, where if there's something wrong in one area, we can almost guarantee that we're going to find, a breadcrumb trail to other areas that create the whole picture. So as we talked about in the beginning of the video here, not only is it whatever's being guarded most, and the bones and the joints and the weight gain and depression, and like we talked about in the first video when I kind of broke down how overactive, underactive, and balanced earth works in the body, this card points to an overactive earth, right? Too much earth. And when that happens, we can manifest that in depression and weight gain, self-medicating, and these negative kind of coping mechanisms. So I really want to take a look at the person as a whole. If you're reading for a person who comes to you with, financial insecurity, an insecure mindset when it comes to their material gains. And like I said, this crosses all platforms when it comes to like health and things like that. So we got to look, it's multifaceted. I really want to talk about when the body plays a major role in the suit of Pentacles, we need to think about the effects of overworking, right? Somebody who has been working themselves to the bone, who's neglecting their health, who doesn't have a good self-care routine. These kind of things are going to be important here. Now look at the joints and muscles. Sometimes this manifestation of overworking and insecurity can point to being emotionally and mentally inflexible as well. And I mentioned this book before, but Yvette Rose put out a really good book about like metaphysical anatomy and how things manifest in the body. And that book says some really interesting things about when we become painful in the joints and the muscles and the bones. It's usually because we are holding on to something. We become mentally inflexible. It's very hard to get through to us. We can be, hard-headed, and these things can manifest quite quickly when being put in positions that are not necessarily healthy. So examine the old belief patterns and the trauma can cause the body become stiff and painful. One of the interesting things that I found about the Four of Pentacles, and I don't know if anybody is an experienced reader here, and maybe you've experienced this, But a lot of the times when I get the Four of Pentacles, it's almost like the person is blocking themselves from feeling abundant because the weight of material gain has almost become heavier than the abundance mindset. And if you do any manifestation techniques or the new age or new thought process, we one of the key elements there is to act as if, place yourself in the mental, emotional, and present mindset of whatever it is that you've been trying to manifest in your life happening at the present moment, right? So instead of I want a house, it's I have a house, and imagining what it would feel like to be walking around your new house, and imagine that feeling of wholeness and abundance and happiness, these kind of manifestation techniques. And I think the Four of Pentacles kind of detracts from that because it's like you're so focused in the now of what is, and the fear of losing it or the insecurity here that you almost forget to look above and beyond. If there's any gamers out there who play like MMO RPGs, you have these bags and you have to drop something out of the bag to be able to put something cool in, unless you buy another bag. But the metaphor may not be working here, but essentially what I'm saying is that if you're holding on to a bunch of little items or a bunch of little situations or a bunch of little mindsets, you essentially are filling up your bag and not making room for the bigger, better things. So this Four of Pentacles can manifest itself in being self-defeating or self-sabotaging, where you're limiting your manifestation, you're limiting your mindset into the here, the now, what you have, and how to protect it. So I really want to take a look at what needs to be released, what kind of belief patterns you have, where they started in the life, and how this card can manifest both positive and negative. Generally speaking, when I pull this card, it's not going to be the greatest card. Now, quickly, I want to touch on in reverse. If you've listened to my other videos, then you know that I do not read reverse meanings as the negative aspects of the card. When I pull a reverse card, it's going to be an internal process. I'm sure you're sick of hearing me say that, but for those of you who have only listened to this video, then I'm going to break that down a little bit. So when I pull a reverse card, I'm going to be looking at the person's internal mindset, right? Their internal state, which in general, I'm going to say this card is pretty equal, both in reverse. Some of the more accepted explanations of this card said that when it's in reverse, it's all about releasing. But I think that releasing comes as part of this card in general, both upright and reverse. But when this card's in reverse, I really want to take a look at their personal belief systems, because when you pull this card upright, it's very possible that this could be a person outside of themselves, right? This could be a person who, like a boss. Sorry about the dog barking. I have 3 of them. So when the card's in reverse, I want to ask questions. I want to probe a little deeper about when they developed their financial security mindset, when and what they believe when it comes to their own personal wealth, right? And then look at the cards around it. Look at the cards for more information. So if you have, well, we're not gonna dive too deep into this, but if you have a bunch of cup cards surrounding this, then this could be a very highly emotionally charged situation. And when we get into cups, we'll kind of touch on this more, because there's other cards that are very close to this. Okay, so in summation, to wrap this up, I definitely suggest that the Four of Pentacles is looked at closely and evaluated more. If you pull the card and you just kind of glaze over it as, oh, someone's being controlling or someone's a boss, yeah, that could do well for your reading. But I would strongly recommend that you ask questions and you probe a little deeper and you consider the other cards around it, so that you can get kind of a whole picture of where they're blocking themselves, where they're holding too tightly onto things that are not serving them anymore, and then how you can release this and kind of move on from that. Alrighty, I'm going to wrap it up. I will see you tomorrow in the next one. Love you and be blessed.